Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's guest is Dr. Kim Foster, and this episode will be of particular interest to health coaches who have a desire to work as part of a collaborative, conventional, or functional medicine practice. Dr. Foster is a physician who saw that patients were not receiving the support they needed after their doctor's visits to truly enact the changes needed to improve their health. The doctor-patient relationship is simply set up in a way as to be incredibly unrewarding, both for the patient and the doctor. She saw that this needed to change, and she recognized right away that health coaches were the conduit. She's developed a business supporting health coaches in developing tools and practices to help them work their way into becoming an integral part of a medical practice, which is so exciting to us. Every year, the need for health coaches as part of an integrative medical team becomes more and more clear. It's a really exciting time to be a health coach, folks. We would love to have you screenshot your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. The show notes for this episode and all previous episodes of Health Coach Radio can easily be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. Enrollment is now open for the fall semester of the Primal Health Coach Institute Level 2 certification course, an advanced coaching course that teaches you how to create transformational coach-client relationships. In our mind, the best way to grow your coaching practice. Not only will you learn and practice advanced coaching skills, but this course also satisfies the educational requirements to enable you to sit for the NBC HWC credentialing exam so you can become a board-certified health and wellness coach. Fun fact, PHCI has a 100% pass rate for the board exam. Every one of our graduates who've sat the exam have passed it. Stay tuned to the end of the show to learn more, or visit primalhealthcoach.com/level2. We know you're going to get fired up to start pounding the pavement and hitting up your local doctor's offices after this incredible conversation with Dr. Kim Foster.
Dr. Kim Foster, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I am great. I'm really happy to be here and talk to you guys.
We are thrilled to have you because you are an example of somebody who bridges kind of two worlds that really should go hand in hand together, but for some reason don't always, the medical world and the coaching world. So I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and how you got here, like a 3 to 5 minute origin story.
Okay, no problem. Sounds good. Yes, I will do my best to condense it down into a brief origin story because it was quite a journey, as you can imagine. But yeah, basically, so I'm an MD. I'm a family doctor turned wellness coach. And I am also a business mentor for health and wellness coaches. Basically, I would say that my journey from the conventional path that I was on. So my journey really began after I, experienced many years really of experiencing all of the frustrations and the limitations of the conventional healthcare system, living in it for many years as a family doctor. And then I discovered this amazing world of health and wellness coaching, and that just completely changed everything for me and just sent me off on a whole new ride, really. But I pivoted myself to coaching, and I learned everything that I could, not just about coaching, but also about business and marketing and entrepreneurship, like a whole other world that I had not been exposed to, of course, in med school. So I was just absorbing all of this learning. And then after building a successful career for myself as a coach, I then, evolved and pivoted again. And now I help health and wellness coaches to build and grow their business through my own business mentorship programs. And basically, I'm on a mission now to do whatever I can to help other people, typically women, I mean, that's usually who I work with, to really pursue an amazing career where they have that freedom and fulfillment, because that was something that I craved for myself and created for myself. But also in like a bigger picture way to really make the world a healthier place. And so if I'm helping, as I'm helping other women to make the world a healthier place, that's what I'm doing too. Of course, that's my impact also. And I'm also on a mission to bridge that gap that you just mentioned between conventional healthcare and the wellness world, because there's this huge canyon and it, like exactly like you said, it should not be that way, but it is. But there are definitely some things that need to change, and so that I do feel that's the role that I have stepped into also, and that helps me on my mission and also to help other coaches too.
All right. So you're a doctor, and not one day, but you discover health and wellness coaching or become aware of its existence and decide, oh my gosh, I need to do that. So that's clearly you had some awakening to the gap, the canyon or the chasm. But what is it? Like, how can you describe like why a doctor would look at health and wellness coaching and say, that's what I need. Actually, that's what I need in my practice. Like, what was it?
Yeah, great question. Right. So I had already been practicing for a lot of years, and in a very in the regular way, of course, that we are trained, and within the confines of medical visits, which are, I know that it is frustrating from the consumer side. I felt that frustration all the time, but it was also frustrating for me because I personally have always had an interest in nutrition and wellness and prevention, but it's just not how our healthcare system is set up. I am not, physicians are not rewarded for spending time with their patients to help them get healthier. Very few people came into me to my office to actually talk to me about prevention. Most of the time, people are encouraged to go and see their doctor when they're sick. And so I just felt like there was just this huge gap where, I could have helped people if the system was set up differently, and if just the whole structure was set up so that I could actually get to people at an earlier stage, and really help them change the trajectory of their lifestyle and their well-being and everything. But just the system was just not that set up that way, and I didn't even really realize that there could be a systematic way for that happening until I found that there was this thing called health and wellness coaching, where people actually did do the exact thing that I had been craving to do all along. And it actually helped people who, as a coach, you can help people to change your own, choices and your behaviors and your lifestyle. Because, the other thing that's so frustrating about medicine is that I can, it's a prescriptive model, right? Like, and not just medication, although that is, of course, a big part. But it's, I just tell people what to do. That's how we're taught. That's how the whole system is set up. I say, you need to lose weight, or you need to start exercising, or you need to do this. And then the expectation is that people are kind of magically going to go off into their lives and execute on that directive. And it is so hard for people to do, right? Of course, lifestyle change is incredibly difficult. And so, of course, people would come back to see me 3 months later, 6 months later, and I would check in with them, and they, of course, hadn't been able to implement those changes into their lives. And how could they? They didn't have anybody, or let alone me, in their daily life walking them through how to overcome their obstacles, their mindset barriers, their logistics setup, their family objections, like all of these things, right? But then I found, okay, wellness coaches, that is literally what they do. And so I just felt like that's just such a missing piece.
I can't even tell you how refreshing that is to hear, first of all. Second of all, so Erin and I work for a health coaching school, and my role at that school is as admissions director. So I talk to people that are interested in becoming a health coach, but sometimes I often talk to people that are looking to hire health coaches to work with their practice or to potentially pay for somebody on staff. So this is where a lot of the clinical practitioners that I call into, at the end of the day, a lot of times what I hear is, I don't know if I have time to do it because my time is so busy, valuable doing other things. That clearly the things that you just recognized aren't solving the problem, but they want to pay somebody else less to do that work for them. So I would love to understand from where do you think that mindset comes from? Like, so I paid all this money to go to medical school to be a doctor, and this is what doctors do. Thus, I need to be a doctor and act in that capacity because that's what's worthy of me. Meanwhile, all this other stuff that's actually more impactful and actually gets results somehow is worthless or not worth their time. It's just fascinating to me. And it's not a judgment call at all. If somebody wants to be a doctor because they feel, look, this is what I'm trained for, and I can't really, unless I'm going to hire another doctor, I can't train someone to do that. So it's always a business model thing too. I get that, but I'm curious about your opinion there and kind of where that mindset comes from.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, and there's not really one direct answer to that, I don't think, but I do think that it has to do with everything about the culture of medicine and the culture of healthcare. Like, we are trained in a very particular format right from the beginning. So our entire education system is all around this assess, diagnose, treat model, which is required. Like, of course, we do need, especially in acute situations, right? I mean, we do. If you've got appendicitis, you need a surgeon to diagnose that that's what's going on, and then take that appendix out. So we need that, of course. But the problem is that acute care model of like assess, diagnose, treat, and just tell people what to do or prescribe a medication or something. It just gets applied to everything, absolutely everything, not just acute situations, but like chronic things like diabetes and high blood pressure and obesity. And so we are still, the framework, the medical model is very much to have people come in to see you, describe their problem, you tell them what's going on, and then you tell them what they need to do about it. And that is it's the whole entire, it's the way that it's set up, and it's actually also how we are paid generally. Like, that's how, you submit your billings to, a particular diagnostic code. So you have to be able to say what the diagnosis was, and you just get that's just how the whole system is set up. So, and we just are indoctrinated into that all the way along. So of course, like most physicians, there are some physicians who are realizing that that model works in many situations, but there's a whole world of things around health and wellness that it falls short, right? It just is not sufficient.
Okay, that's a great explanation. So it succinctly summarizes what we hear, what we think we know, is that the model is the acute care model, but it's applied to everything. And physicians are paid based on diagnostic codes. They're not rewarded for spending time with patients. So there's no time to talk about prevention or reversal of chronic conditions. Like, is that going to change ever?
Right? Wouldn't it be great if you were paid based on outcomes?
Yeah.
Like, you were paid more based on, everyone's worth their time, and you can't always guarantee everything, and this is, I think, like the Virta health model is actually working with insurance companies to be paid based on kind of the program and their ability to reverse type 2 diabetes. But to Erin's question, I think that's a super important question. Either will it change? And if so, what might prompt it, or how would we see it change?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big issue. And don't despair completely. I can hear the despair in your voice. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, changing the entire healthcare system and the whole culture of medicine and how healthcare is delivered. I mean, of course, I reached a crossroads where I thought, okay, can I take this whole thing on? And that was the choice that I made for myself, is that I'm not going to be able to change this whole entire system in my lifetime, right? But what I can do is further the work of people who are actually able to do the work of helping people with more of a preventive, more of an upstream model, really helping people to get healthy and stay that way, how to make lifestyle changes, all of those kinds of things. So I can do that myself with people, and then now I can help other people to build careers so that we bring the wellness coaching model into the existing healthcare model. But of course, like that juxtaposition it can be a bumpy one, of course, because the medical model isn't going away anytime soon, and it shouldn't, of course, it can't. But we need more interconnection, I think, is my assessment of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, clearly. Well, clearly you believe that because you did that. And I'm wondering if, like, we're obviously going to dive into this, sort of what health coaches need to know and how they should go about, taking this on if they do wish to get it kind of into the actual medical healthcare space. I guess just in your opinion, do you feel like there's a growing trend of physicians who are becoming disenchanted with this antiquated model, or is it kind of 50-50? What are the opportunities for health coaches? Is it getting better?
Oh, it's definitely getting better. There's no doubt about that. It's getting better, but slowly.
Mm-hmm.
The medical community is not super quick to adopt new changes in this realm, and so it is changing for sure, but it is slowly. But I am encountering more and more physicians and more, traditionally trained healthcare professionals who are, yes, dissatisfied with the way that the system is set up, recognizing that there are major shortfalls, shortcomings, and gaps in the way that we're helping people. And so there's definitely sort of a grassroots kind of thing happening. I guess the other factor that I should mention is big pharma. That's a powerful force. And evidence-based medicine so much is around, pharmaceuticals, because they've got the money, to be totally frank, and they are funding the studies. So studies that look at lifestyle change, behavior change, like, where are those dollars coming from, right? Like, nowhere. So, I mean, some of that stuff is happening. There is some research around the benefits of exercise and the benefits of meditation and all of that stuff. There is some, but it's nothing compared to the research that's happening around pharmaceuticals. And so much of the medical culture is really embroiled in which medications make the most sense for particular conditions. And that's why when we get just infused with so much of that messaging. So we're always going to be working, not always, but for a long time, we're going to be working, trying to overcome that very powerful messaging that's coming to the medical community at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I think draws a big bullseye on top of everything you just said is like everything that's transpired over the last year with COVID-19 and how much time and money was spent on developing a vaccine, right? And all the clinical trials and the research that's happened about that. Meanwhile, there is boatloads of, if not anecdotal, but also clinical evidence of the overall kind of lifestyle related diseases that make people particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. But nowhere in the traditional medical community do you hear anybody with actionable advice on how to actually be healthier so this thing doesn't get you. It's all about staying masked up, staying inside, and going to get your vaccine. So now what you have is an acute situation that, had we treated the chronic situation more effectively, might not have been an acute situation in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was always amazing to me, or it has been and continues to be, like how little messaging there is around what you can do to stay healthy. And I know that health and wellness coaches are out there, trumpeting that message, but it gets a little bit drowned out. And it's amazing. But you're right. Like that's a classic example of how, some of the less flashy messages just kind of get drowned out, right? Like, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Like, what about that? Because that supports your immune system. I don't know. So,
you're absolutely right.
Well, one thing you said is sort of the evidence-based medical crowd. They're really, and this is not a fault of the medic. This is just a fact that what they need is the evidence, the research, the studies, and there just are way more studies on meds than there are on meditation or walking or getting sunlight. So it's a systemic problem. It's not just like doctors aren't paying attention, doctors don't understand health. It's like they're kind of hamstrung by this need for evidence. And that's, so I think that's where a lot of health coaches, or maybe I'm just speaking out of turn or speaking on behalf of myself, but I think like, that's why I don't work in the medical space, to be honest with you. I work in private practice because it's like, I don't even know how to get myself in there. I don't even really want to start fighting those battles or standing up for myself in that realm. But lots of health coaches really desire to work in the medical field, but have been made to feel like they're small, or their credential is kooky or something, or their approach is kooky because it's not evidence-based. It is, but there's just not that much evidence compared to pharmaceutical model.
It's not that clinical evidence.
Right.
There's plenty of personal, anecdotal, and real life evidence. It just wasn't done in a lab where it was tracked. But so, and I really want to dive into how, what advice you have to kind of bridge this gap. But the good news is here in the US, there's an organization that is trying to bridge this gap. So you've got the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaches here in the US that is collaborating with, or either associated or affiliated with the
National Board of Medical
Examiners, right? That produced this board certification that really, if you want to work collaboratively in the clinical space, you're going to want to have that, at least here in the US. And I know it's bleeding into Canada and some other areas around the globe. So we do have a partner there with this organization that this is what they're trying to do. It's trying to kind of create a path here. But I don't know how long that's going to take. And we certainly need a heck of a lot more than just this one organization. And it sounds to me like this is a passion and a driver of yours to try to help equipped health coaches on how to be proactive in bridging that gap on their own behalf and working with the medical community. So I would love to hear what you're doing there.
Great question. Yeah, so you're right. Like there definitely are some organizations that are doing this work. And in fact, what you mentioned about the research, there is research about the benefits of health coaching, and specifically like actual, studies that have been done. Again, it's smaller numbers and things compared to pharmaceutical-based studies, but the American Medical Association, for example, put together a whole continuing education module on why health coaching is beneficial and why you would want to have a health coach as part of your practice.
Awesome.
Many years ago, actually. It's not new. And I direct all my clients to look at that and to use the studies that have been published, because especially if you're looking to connect with doctors in some capacity, like to collaborate with them, or even just set up, a referral relationship, then if you can speak a physician's language, then you're going to get so much further. And, the language of medicine is evidence-based. So if you can demonstrate that the American Medical Association has curated and collected a number of studies that legitimately show the benefits of health coaching, then they're going to be so much more on board with the very concept of why health coaching is a useful thing. So I definitely encourage my clients and students to take a look at that stuff and to use it to bolster up your position.
Great. What else would a health coach want to do if they were going in to make a referral relationship with a physician? Because I think we're driven by passion. I actually tried this. I went into a local doctor's office around here who I had heard through the grapevine was kind of aligned with my philosophy. And I set up a meeting and I was like, I really, really need to help your patients. I can help them. I can help them. I can do this. I know that you don't have time and I have the time and I want to help them. And I didn't get his attention because I was just a little bit too excited, or just speaking from the perspective of how I was going to help and not maybe how this was going to benefit him or the practice or whatever. So what else should health coaches get ready or start working on?
So many things. There's so many things that you can do. So the first step that I usually say is, first of all, to look at your own mindset. That's always a great place to start. So this is if I'm speaking to like a health or wellness coach, so examining your mindset, because I do know that a lot of people, because I hear people tell me all the time that they are concerned about the response that they're going to get from a particular doctor, or intimidated maybe even, or not sure how to convince a doctor that this would be of benefit. And so what I would say is to be aware of your own belief system of what you're applying there, that it's not about convincing them to work with you like as if they're doing you a favor, to like send patients your way because this is something that I need for my business. I need to build my business, get more. Even though I know that for many health and wellness coaches, that is of course the motivation. You're wanting to approach physicians because you want some referrals sent your way, but you need to make sure that you're flipping it and thinking of it and presenting it as they need you. They may not fully realize it just yet, but they really do need you because, just like what you actually touched on just now, is that they don't have time. They definitely do not have the time. We know that for sure. And many doctors really don't have an interest in this anyway. It's not their particular wheelhouse, but they definitely feel the frustration on a daily basis when patients come to them with maybe a new diagnosis of high blood pressure, and they say, well, what can I eat? What can I do? What else can I try? And they might be able to give them a handout or something in the 30 seconds that they've got left before the next patient needs to come through the door. So they would feel that frustration. And if you can present yourself as being the solution to that problem, for not just for them, like that you're alleviating some pressure in their practice, but also that you're actually going to help their patients get better outcomes. So you're presenting yourself as a solution, not presenting yourself as somebody who needs referrals, if that makes sense.
Can I jump in 1 second? Because this might be, I want to know what your thoughts are on this. Sometimes we get a little in health coaching circles, we can get a little grumpy about the healthcare system, the sick care system. Yeah. And there's some language around like doctors don't even want their patients to get better. Like, I don't like that language. That language makes me upset because I think doctors got into this line of work, honestly, to help people get better. They're shackled. They can't. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, I don't know if you can, but it's like, that's untrue. I think that's an untrue statement that doctors don't want people to get better. They want to prescribe the meds because they get paid. They can bill more when they're prescribing more. And I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do, of course, feel that that's an unfair assessment, right? Like I mean, I can tell you for sure, like all the people that I went to med school with and did residency with and all of that. I mean, there's personality types, okay? For sure, there's different personality types, but everybody that I interacted with, I mean, we are drawn to this profession because we want to help people. Like that really is at its core. It's just the way that the system is set up. We're given these specific tools that we are expected to adhere to. And I gotta say also legally held to a standard of care that is established and is evidence-based. Like it's a little bit difficult to be, go rogue on that, right? Because legally there can be and have been significant repercussions for people when they step outside the lines of what is required and expected for standards of medical care. But I feel that it's unfair, like what you just said. I totally understand where it's coming from because everybody has experienced that frustration. I have experienced that frustration of being, needing something more from my medical providers that they were just not equipped to give me, and feeling that frustration, right? So I do understand, but I do feel that it's unfair to say, well, it's because they don't want to. There's so many other reasons why they can't and just aren't in a position to.
I completely agree.
True. Yeah, look at just Dr. Tim Noakes from South Africa. Literally gave up his license because of all the crap he went through because he told people to stop eating sugar and to consider a low carb, high fat diet to treat a certain condition. They attacked him it was at the end of the day vindicated, but then opted to like ditch the medical license, doesn't even want to work in that capacity anymore. And he's got another thriving career and he's still in that space. But I could see how just looking at that guy as an example would be a huge reason why you're very careful about stepping outside the lines there. I mean, I remember Aaron and I both have our own health journeys. I went through a period where I got pretty sick, but there was never really one diagnosis. It's not like I had one illness. I just couldn't get well. No matter what I did, I was like always sick. It's because my immune system sucked because every doctor I went to see just gave me another antibiotic. Right. So, but again, and at first I was angry. I legitimately was, but I wasn't angry at one particular doctor. I was angry at the whole system that led me down that path to begin with. And I didn't get well until I went to a practitioner that functioned outside that paradigm. I had to literally exit out of that part of and go see somebody else that worked differently, had a different kind of license, and that worked. But that's also kind of what led me here. But we also see, and I would love your take on this. So we do see a lot of health coaches who had a similar story. They felt mistreated by the sort of healthcare system. And so now they're stepping in to try to help other people that are going down a similar path and kind of bashing the medical community, giving them advice they should not be giving them as like advice, right? It's different when you're telling your story and some people have been successful trying whatever, that kind of thing. But I think we need to be very careful in helping health coaches learn how to work collaboratively with a medical professional and knowing kind of where your boundary is. But just thinking about like the idea of collaboratively working with someone, how that just opens up the benefits of what you can do working with someone who's licensed for that.
Yes, exactly. There's so many benefits to that more collaborative, like team-based approach, right? Where everybody has got their zone of genius. Like, the diagnostic realm is the medical realm, right? Like that's, and then, but the actual implementing and supporting somebody as they make changes, like positive changes in their life, that's the coaching realm. And doctors cannot possibly fill that role, and they shouldn't. Of course, we're not going to ask them to. That's not the way that it goes, but people definitely need it. So that's why it would be so beneficial to have people work much more in like a team, in like an interdisciplinary team. I mean, there have been in healthcare, the interdisciplinary team concept has been in existence in healthcare for quite some time. It's just that health and wellness coaches are the newer member to the team, right? Because we're recognizing how massively important behavior change, habit change, all of that stuff really is and can majorly change a person's outcome. So there is definitely room at the table for health and wellness coaches. And so, of course, but that is the work that we need to do, is to get them at the table there.
Right. So what's the step? So okay, imagine I've got my certificate. I'm a health coach. I've been out there coaching people for some time, but I really want to start working intentionally and collaboratively with a professional in my area. Let's say I've identified a couple of people I want to reach out to. What should my first step be?
Yeah. So the first step is actually comes before reaching out to people, and that is making sure what I call is your referral friendly foundation. So you need to set up your business so that it is referral friendly. You want to make it as easy as possible for a doctor to understand what you're doing, who you're helping, how you're helping them, so that they have confidence, because in the medical community, confidence and trust are huge. If they don't have confidence and if they don't trust that you're going to be able to, play this role and help people, then they're not, of course, going to send patients your way. So you have to make sure that your business is referral friendly, meaning that you have got a really specific niche or ideal client avatar that you are working with, so that they understand. Because in a busy day, like, this is another element. I mean, this is business basic principles too. Of course, you need to niche down and be specific, but also, like, if you're looking for a doctor to think of their patients who they could send your way, in an average physician's day, they're seeing 30 people. They need to know immediately when that person that you want to see is sitting in front of them in their office, they'll be like, oh, right. Trigger, this is the exact person who that health coach described she would love to work with. This I know exactly who you should talk to. And then, it just makes it nice and seamless, right? So they need to have a clear sense of who it is that you are looking to work with, what it actually is going to look like for a client to work with you. Like, how is that even going to go? You need to be able to communicate that really clearly so that a doctor doesn't have a vague sense, because this is the other thing, like doctors don't really know what a health coach does, what a wellness coach does, like how do they even work? So you need to help them understand that in a very clear, concise way so that they can, again, feel that confidence and then really in an efficient way send a person over to see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I love that you brought that forward, because I'm a huge advocate for like get your mind right on in terms of who you're helping and how you help them. So like we're kind of talking about your methodology. What's your methodology? Like, what's your program? What is it like? And I bet you too, I was thinking as you were describing that, if the doctor has that moment where it's like, oh, this is a great patient for that health coach that dropped in, then there has to be some kind of very tidy, streamlined sort of onboarding into your program. Like, here's the link, or here, that kind of thing, right? So we teach that in our course. We teach people to start thinking about their program and how that's going to look from the customer experience. Is it a pretty slick experience for your customer? But now you got to think about it in terms of this whole third party who's going to be pushing a customer into your funnel, right? So that's really important to think about up front.
Yeah, exactly. And really thinking it through and having a very streamlined process so that you make it super easy for a doctor. Because again, it does also come down to time, right? If you're making it complicated and they're not really sure what they're supposed to do and, what steps are involved, or, it's just vague, they're not going to do it. They're going to keep going on with their day. So you need to make it really easy and really clear.
Yes. And I'm trying to imagine what the handoff would be like. So I'm just going to use a diabetic patient as an example, because that would be probably the space that that's the space I play in, kind of, sort of. And I remember being diagnosed pre-diabetic, so that's just something I can really draw to. But it's like the doctor, diagnoses the pre-diabetes, kind of gives the patient some kind of advice as to how to, best manage it. The patient shows some struggle with understanding that or getting that on board or not knowing how to implement this in their life. And the doctor says, oh, that health coach. So when the doctor simply referring the patient to the health coach and then extracting themselves from the relationship typically, or is there like a handoff where the doctor says to the health coach, here's what I want you to work on with this patient? Or how does that typically go?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different options. And so I always talk to my, clients and students about exploring a couple of different models and ways that you could do this. I mean, it can be as simple as just you providing them marketing material that they can hand out your business card. Like, that's the simplest kind of way. It's not as closed of a system. Like, there's an open loop there because there's no feedback on when he recommends your service to a patient. And then there's some, really great systems. For example, I have had a couple of clients who use the platform Practice Better, if you've heard of that platform, which is great. And there you can create a HIPAA compliant intake form on Practice Better. And I have had a few clients who have set that up for the physicians that they collaborate with. And so all the doctor has to do then is go onto your intake form, complete the details, and then you handle it from there, right? Because then you've received the referral essentially, and then you take it from there. So it's really seamless and easy for a physician to do, and it's like more of that closed system that I said, where there's like a feedback loop. It's not just kind of left up to a person to get in touch with you.
That's nice.
Cool. So is that, do you create that in Practice Better? Is there, you just send the doctor like a link that they click on and it automatically, that's slick.
Yeah, basically. And what I help a lot of students and clients set up also is like a page on your website. You can actually have a dedicated page that's for practitioners that collects that messaging, like why they would actually want to work with you. And I give people templates on like the actual language to use, and then links up to your form so that it makes it, again, like really easy, quick, and painless.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, the doctor's filling in this form.
Yeah. If they are having somebody who they want to send your way, then yeah, I mean, that is ideal. Again, it depends, because like I said, it can come from a number of different directions. It can be the onus is on the potential client or like their patient to get in touch with you. Like they'll give them the information about you, but then it's up to them. Or you can make it be that it's more of a direct referral. Because I mean, we've used a referral model in medicine for a long time. Of course, we refer to specialists, we refer to all sorts of other people. So we're familiar with that.
Right. Okay. That's good. Yeah, I think because I'm not familiar with that model. Like I don't know what happens behind the scenes in doctor land when there's a referral. So now I'm kind of picking that up. Like the doctor kind of is initiating, in some cases, not always. In some sometimes the doctor's initiating the handover to the health coach, and sometimes the doctor's like, here's a business card of a health coach I think you should go work with, and the patient goes away and does it themselves. There's kind of like two paths there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, I have an entire module in my program to actually help health and wellness coaches to understand, like, this is actually how it works in medical land currently. And so then how can you kind of plug into that?
Oh, great. That's great. Yeah. That's awesome, because that's really an unknown for us, right?
Right. Well, it goes to what Kim said earlier, that you have to learn how to speak their language and understand what their world is like in order to be able to communicate effectively. And if that's typically how things are done, they fill out some sort of an official, I mean, here in the US, when let's say I go to my general practitioner and they refer me to a specialist, there's like a form that they fill out and they make contact. And a lot of times that other doctor then reaches out to me to set up an appointment. So if that's their normal modus operandi, then it makes a lot of sense for you to have a solution for that kind of fits that narrative. That makes a lot of sense. When it comes to also being able to kind of speak their language and understand their world, what else do you think health coaches kind of need to be aware of that we might not otherwise? Is there certain languages or certain terms we should or shouldn't use?
Well, when it comes to communicating with doctors, I mean, one of the things that I find is really important, and I do a lot of work around this when working with people, is to understand that doctors aren't a monolith, right? Like there is going to be a whole spectrum of responses. And would I love to be able to say that you're not going to encounter resistance or maybe even outright rejection? Like I would love to be able to say that. That's not going to be the case. Of course, if you are going to venture into this as a strategy for your business, for building your business, then you're going to have to get yourself ready to face some rejection, like any sales process, right? Like that. I mean, that's just the way that it is, because you will, of course, encounter physicians who are very, in the box thinking, and they're not going to be receptive to what you're talking about. And that's okay, because the truth is you don't need all doctors on board. No, there's like 950,000 practicing physicians in the US alone. You don't need them all. You need like 3 to have a healthy referral, like incoming referrals. You just need a couple of people. Really, you just need 1 to get started with, and then you can sort of springboard from there. So you're not looking to convert the people who are just never going to be open to it. So that's okay. So, but then there are for sure physicians out there who are on board with this idea and would love for this solution. Like I've been inside groups, like conversation groups of other physicians, Facebook groups and things. And they're like, and I've actually posed this question. I said, have you guys ever worked with a health coach or referred patients to a health coach? And I've seen responses from physicians saying, I wish there was somebody out there like that. I wish that there was somebody that I could hand off my patients who need more help and support and guidance and all of that stuff. And so there are definitely people out there who are open to it, but it can be a bit of a thing to try and locate those people. So having a thick skin and being persistent, honestly, that is almost all of the battle, is being persistent. Like, go keep on looking, stay in the game, and circling back, like, not just one and done, like, pitch the idea, you don't get a super positive response, and then kind of turn your tail and go away. That's just, it's such a mistake. I understand 100% why that happens, but digging into being more persistent and circling back on people is really, makes a huge difference.
Well, that's advice for anybody getting into any kind of entrepreneurship anywhere. I was thinking of a story of a guy I know who lives here, and he got hooked up with this physician that is just delighted to have him on board. And this coach is, oh my gosh, making such incredible improvements. People are being de-prescribed their diabetes meds, and he's even getting into the Alzheimer's space a little bit. It's really exciting. Like, but he knocked on something like 37 doors before he got one, and he was just persistent. Like, he was like, this time's going to pass anyway. This is what I really want to do. So I'll just keep knocking. And on the 37th door, he got someone. And now he's actually, like, he's really embroiled in this system. He's changing people's health, like, in immense ways. But guys, it's like that persistence. Like, we can't just pack it in because we didn't knock it out of the park on the first try. That's just simply not how doing anything new, entrepreneurship, snowboarding, anything, like, you can practice it, right?
So what's the best way to sort of get in the door? I mean, so I guess, because this is a question that comes up, like, I don't even know how to reach out to these people. A lot of people don't answer emails anymore. They're too busy for phone calls. Do I just stop in and leave a card? Like, what's the best way for that kind of initial contact?
Yeah. So, and this is important because you do need to be strategic about it, and you do need to know sort of what you're setting yourself and where you're walking into, not just kind of winging it, because that's not going to work, right? And so this is another thing that I teach people, is like the concept of the gatekeeper, right? So medical offices, I mean, there's all kinds of different environments and situations, but most medical offices, of course, have a medical office assistant, like front staff, gatekeeper, and their job entirely, well, they've got lots of jobs and responsibilities and things, but a big part of their job is to protect the doctor time, to be like a gatekeeper, because of course the physician needs to be seeing patients and, doing all that stuff. So, so the gatekeeper is, you need to be strategic about how you're going to approach the gatekeeper. And there, you can take a page out of pharmaceutical reps, for example. For a long, long time, like, this is not a new thing. Like, pharmaceutical reps need access to physicians in order to pitch their product and talk about their medications and all that stuff. And so they've got all kinds, it's a sales strategy, right? Like, making the icebreaker approach, and then circling back, providing things of value, right? Like offering to do workshops or talks, or providing content. And just really, there's so much, you can go so much further by just being a friendly, positive face. And also the persistent thing comes back to, like, not being a nuisance, but you got to show up. Like, and now, to your question though about logistically, how do you do it? There's a variety of ways, right? Like, of course, there's the in-person thing, although hasn't been so great recently with COVID, of course. So that's going to change things. But yeah, I mean, telephone, email, regular mail, like mailing outside, there's a lot of different approaches, and you can try different things. You can come up with your own strategy. And again, I walk people through how to actually choose the right approaches, because it's going to depend on the different circumstances and the kind of response that you get. And then, assess your results, see what gave you the most traction, where did things work, just like honestly any other marketing technique. Look at your metrics, where did you get positive responses, double down on that, do less of the stuff that wasn't really working for you.
Great. That's great advice.
Yeah, I love it. What's interesting, so I heard you mention regular mail, which used to be how everybody got marketed to. Now no one ever opens it. Like, I don't get a whole lot of like mailers anymore. I get some. I get far more emails that I tend to ignore. So maybe that's Not like if you can find something of value, like a great ebook or like some sort of freebie that you give away on your website anyway, or something of even more value that you might ordinarily charge for that you can have printed in hard copy and sent via snail mail to a doctor with a personal note. I could see that getting someone's attention.
Yeah, exactly. And because that can sometimes be the difference maker, because it used to be that was our, like, exactly like you said, that used to be our predominant way of communication. Now it's all email. So something coming in the mail that's actually a physical thing, that actually might get more attention than,
Yeah.
because how much mail do we get now? Anyway, so yeah, it's
I love it.
definitely got to stay open-minded and try different things, being willing to try different things and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. I think that for a health coach who's looking to get into this space, this actually sounds like, I'm going to use the word fun, but I'll explain what I mean by that. Like in the terms of like, I'm going to come up with a signature talk, a workshop that I can give, that I could offer to give at doctor's offices. That's kind of a cool little content project, and that helps you refine your message. Trying to build a talk, or coming up with a handout that you can leave and say, hey, feel free to give this to your patients who have XYZ situation, and working on how you're going to articulate your message. Like I want to go back in time and or maybe speak to newbie health coaches from the future, which is the early part of your practice where you're coming up with ideas and creating products and programs and materials is the fun part. And if your desire is to go work with physicians, then there's a real framework around what you should be kind of putting your attention to, and it's going to help your entire business in the long run. So you'll be really clear on what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Tons of benefits. And I love that idea to just make it fun, right? Like, because this is the whole point, right? When you're building your own business, it's supposed to be fun. So yeah, get creative, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it is supposed to be fun. I'm sorry, but it is. And that's why I wanted to bring that word in, because I feel like health coaches get so down on themselves when this thing doesn't take off like a rocket ship right away. It's like, listen, just settle into the I'm going to say process, because there's 2 Canadians and 1 American on this call, so I can say process.
Go for it.
Enjoy the process, and like, just coaches just don't have the time. And so anyway, these conversations make me excited, because anyone who's out there like, I want to change the healthcare, the face of healthcare, I'm really passionate about doing that. Well, you can help do that. You just got to take the bull by the horns.
Right. When you take a look at, oh my gosh, because I've heard people say this, like, why bother? It's such a big undertaking. There's like, little old me is not going to be able to change this whole thing. And you're looking at it the wrong way. If we get enough of us that are we're focusing on our little piece of the world and the difference we can make every single day with the people that we work with, you get enough of those people. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a huge tidal wave of people coming in and kind of changing this, because the demand's there. People are, and speaking to that, what a great way to get in at a doctor's office if you've had a successful relationship with a client, that they can then go to their doctor and say, this person has made a world of difference for me. I think you should talk to him or her, because I think you've got some other patients that could really benefit from the work they do.
Yeah, exactly. I recommend that all the time. That's an amazing place to start. I mean, you can start with your own doctor, like that's your warmest leads, just like anything, right? You'd start with your warmest leads. But yeah, I mean, absolutely having a client who has had great results with you talk to their own personal physician and say, I need to tell you about this person who really helped me change things. Many of my clients have had a ton of success that way. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said. Like, that's what grassroots is all about, right? Like we instead of getting overwhelmed and discouraged about the scope of the problem, really look at, okay, well, what can I do to make this better? Just one person at a time, right? Like getting great results for one person, and then that snowballs from there. And then if everybody is doing that in their own way, then yeah, things are definitely going to change.
Yeah, they are. Do you offer any advice to the coaches that you work with regard to the fact that right now health coaching is pay out of pocket? So the handoff from, say, insurance covered medical care to now a pay out of pocket health coach is, it feels clunky or feels like a barrier.
Yeah, it can be a barrier for sure. And you will definitely, or most people do encounter that as an objection and a barrier. Many physicians, I mean, it entirely depends on the kind of system that they're functioning inside, but many of them are reluctant to recommend something that is like a private service because it depends on their patient population, like it depends on the demographics of who they work with, all of those kinds of things. So certain demographics are going to be more or less receptive to that. But the truth is, like, physicians do refer to private services, even in, our healthcare system, as you know, in Canada, it's all state funded. But we do refer like to, physiotherapists or private counselors and therapists, massage therapy, like all of that stuff is private. It might be covered by a person's extended health benefits program, but it's not within the state funded system. So there it's definitely it's often an objection that comes up from the medical community, but it's not one that can be overcome, and there's lots of examples of ways that it actually has been overcome.
Great point. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great question. That was something that was in the back of my mind earlier that I meant to ask, and thank you for that, because that's so. Again, in my role here, I get that question from people all the time, and a lot of times it's a misunderstanding of, they want to become national board certified because they think that then means that they can bill insurance, and I'm like, that's not how that works. Look, who knows where we're going to be in 5 years? We may be in a very different space as it relates to insurance, either covering health coaching or being able to use another healthcare benefit of some sort, or maybe insurance companies, at least here in the US, offering preferential pricing and premiums for people who hire a health coach. Like I can see stuff like that making its way into the space over time, but it's just not there yet. So you've got to be super comfortable in the value that you bring and that you're worth every penny. And anyone that's ever been frustrated by the traditional medical space that finally paid out of pocket to go someplace else because it wasn't working, they're not going to blink an eye.
No.
So that, I guess, kind of leads to working with or collaborating with folks that other professionals that are sort of outside that world. Maybe whether it's, I don't know if chiropractic care is covered where you guys are, or acupuncturists, physiotherapists, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, we've been talking just about getting referrals from physicians, but of course, like this absolutely applies to any other number of healthcare professionals. Basically, it's the same concept of, people who are serving your community, like your target audience in a different way than, pairing up with them so that they can, hand people over, refer people to you. So yeah, you could absolutely, all of these principles still apply to, chiropractor, acupuncturist, psychotherapist, like, depending entirely on your niche. Then yeah, because there's just so many opportunities, totally untapped opportunities, really, I think.
Mm-hmm. I would offer a little pep talk to anybody who's listening. So, again, in Canada, medical care is free, sort of. I've had clients come to me in my private practice and say, "Are you a registered dietitian?" And I'll say, "Nope." And they'll say, "Well, are your services covered under my extended health care?" And it's like, probably not, because I don't really recognize health coaches unless it's the health savings account. And I can count on one hand in 7 years and over 1,000 clients, the number of clients who said, "Well, I'm not going to do it if I can't get it for free." I can count on one hand. People are like, "You know what? I'm going to do it anyway because whatever. I'm not this time. I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to invest in myself." Like it's barely been a barrier.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's been my experience too, for sure. And it also goes back to, it's a similar kind of concept as you don't need all people, just like you don't need
Right.
all doctors to be on board. There are absolutely going to be people out there who are not ready and currently willing to invest their own money in their own well-being. That's okay. They're just not there yet. Hopefully they will be. Hopefully they'll get the help somewhere else. But there are for sure people who are willing, ready, and like they've got their credit card coming out of their wallet because they are like, I need to solve this problem. And if they truly believe that you are the person to solve this problem for them, then it's a done deal, right? And those are, of course, the clients that you want. Like those are the people that you want to coach. So
Right.
yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The ones who say, oh, if it's not free, I'm not doing it. It's like, great. We both just dodged a bullet. And I think that the health consumer who's willing to swipe the credit card, this is exponentially growing year over year. People are more and more and more fed up with not getting better year over year. There's more, as far as I'm concerned, there's always every year more clients out there who are like, if you have the solution to my problem, take my money.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally a revolution, and that it has been building. I've definitely been observing that over the last several years, is that, it used to nobody used to know what on earth this was, but that is definitely changing, and people are becoming more comfortable with the idea of actually investing in their own health and well-being. And so, yeah, as a health and wellness coach, you're perfectly positioned to, just take advantage of that rising public profile.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so one of the things we talk about all the time, both on our podcast with our existing students, I've talked about it on the phone with people, is, you have to get really comfortable talking about not only your niche, but what problem you solve and what it is you do, because the average person has no idea what health coaching is. Zero. They're not Googling health coach near me. It's not happening, right? They're looking for a solution to their problem. And I think physicians, at least they've heard of it, but what percentage, as far as awareness of what health coaches really do, kind of where would you rate that on a scale of like overall being the vast majority knows 0 all the way to, no, the vast majority know what health coaching is and understand it, I guess, correctly, versus they've kind of heard of it. I mean, where do you think we are at this point?
Good question. Do you mean like the general public, or do you mean the medical community?
The medical community. Because here's why I'm asking the question is, when we talk to coaches about finding clients, making sure from a language perspective, you're expressing what problem you're solving and what you do. Don't try to sell health coaching, right? Because no one's buying health coaching. Should the approach be the same in the medical community? Or do you think we need to, no, this is what health coaching is. These people should be aware of health coaching, and it's really just drawing the connection to how it's going to benefit their clients and how it's going to benefit the actual physician. What benefits are they going to receive? Or do we need to be even more specific about targeting a specific problem and kind of leave, how much education do we have to do as health coaches with the practitioner on what health coaches really do?
Yeah, I think that the general understanding of what a health coach is and what a health coach does is pretty low still, or kind of vague. It is improving, and more people in the medical community have heard of this concept, but it's still pretty loose, like vague understanding. So exactly what you just said about don't try and sell people health coaching. I mean, I tell my clients that all the time. Do not sell coaching, because nobody really knows what that is or why they would want to carve time out of their schedule to do that, because it just sounds like something that they need to find time for. Instead, you got to sell the benefit, of course, and the outcome of why, what's going to change for them in their life by working with you. And I think that it's that you have to take the same approach with talking with people like medical professionals, not just say, I'm a health coach, send your people my way because I can help them. It's got to be much more specific than that, and really explain, gut health. That's a classic example, because so any general practitioner, family doctor has got plenty of clients in their practice or patients who are have irritable bowel syndrome or various other difficult to help a person with the tools that we have, chronic condition. And no doubt that it creates a ton of trouble, daily symptoms and problems, lifestyle impact for people. And they are going to be in their office repeatedly saying, I need some help. What else can you do for me, doctor? Can you send me to another specialist? And, all of those kinds of things, right? So that's a classic example of if you were somebody who was like a gut health coach and you're helping people to make over their gut health, and then you would present that concept to a physician and say, do you know how patients who have irritable bowel syndrome or SIBO or, whatever, like are always coming back to you, and you just don't really know how to help them anymore because you've done the test that you can do. You've sent them to a specialist who then sent them back to you because there's, and so I can help with that frustration because I can do this, that, and they're going to have this outcome, and that outcome.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the classic of literally painting the picture for the practitioner of exactly who to send your way, who's going to be the best candidate for you, whether it's gut health and you've run all this. Another one is kind of that type 2 diabetic who just has to keep increasing insulin levels. And a big chunk of it is because they're not changing anything other than taking medicine. And because their health just gets worse, they just have to keep increasing the dose. What if we were able to actually help educate and help empower that client to really start changing things for the better? Literally paint the picture so that when they meet that client in their office, this is exactly, I heard you mention that earlier too, and it's really important.
Yeah.
How important do you think being able to share success stories and testimonials are? Because I would think not only do you need to be referral friendly, I think you need to be referable. They need to have some sort of proof that you know what you're doing, right? So don't come out of like fresh out of a health coaching program where you haven't coached one person and reach out to practitioners saying, refer me all your clients, because I can do this. You haven't proven you've done any of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, social proof is so important for building a business, and this is definitely no exception. And it's like what I said before, the trust factor is really important. If they don't trust you, they're not going to send anybody your way. So yeah, having actual success stories, case studies, all of that kind of stuff is just so important. So yeah, you're right. Like this, as a marketing strategy, getting physician referrals or healthcare professional referrals, it's not necessarily a strategy for the freshly minted health coach. It's for somebody who has been in the trenches a little bit, has worked with some clients, knows that they can really help people, and now they're ready to get out there and get in front of more of the right people. And so collaborating and getting referrals from healthcare world is going to just bring so many more people to them.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes. This is just all solid business advice. And I know a lot of folks are super eager to get into this space. So why don't we start talking about like your program, how you work with coaches and that kind of stuff. What do you have like, so is it a one-on-one mentorship? Do you do group programming? How do you work with people?
Yeah, all of the above, really. Like I do work with people privately. I have a group business mentorship program, but then I also have a course that's specifically around this particular strategy that I developed. It's called Physician Referral Advantage, and it's a self-study course that just walks you through my whole entire framework that I have honed over the years of having a foot in both of these worlds, right? And so, yeah, so it really depends on, what people are looking for. Some people really want that individual one-to-one, like let's work through your exact process. I take a look at your pitch and your programs and your offers and your approach, and we generate a list of doctors that you're going to actually approach and put together your strategy. So I can certainly do that with people privately or inside my mentorship group, Business Academy for Coaches. So yeah, there's a number of different ways that I help people with this.
Nice.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I know that this is a very sharp area. There's a lot of people that know that this is, I think, where a lot of the growth is going to come from is, these connections right now between the medical community and the health coach community they're growing. They're still fragile, but they're growing and they're growing stronger. And I 100% believe they're going to continue to get stronger. And again, I keep using 5 years as a random mark. I don't know why, but I do think this is going to be a whole different world 5 years from now. So we need to be prepared, health coaches to get there. And so I think the more well-versed health coaches can be to work collaboratively with the medical community, stop being so defensive about it and embrace it. Everybody's going to be better off, the coach, the doctor, and the patient, period. So where can folks find you if they want to work with you or just find out more? Where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, I mean, my website, drkimfoster.com, is a great starting point to take a look at. But I also do, I have a guide, a free download that people can grab that gives like how to get started on an approach for approaching doctors for referrals. So I have it's an MD referral guide. It just walks through those core principles and how the first kind of steps that you'd need to take if you were actually going to start working on those. So I'll give you the link to that free guide so that your listeners can grab that. And I also have a quiz. That's called "Is Your Health Coaching Business Ready for Physician Referrals?" And it gives you like a sense of, what, if you're ready, like, are you ready? Because it's not a great idea to go out there and start approaching physicians for referrals before you kind of have your ducks in a row. That can be very discouraging, of course. I've seen that happen a lot. So so getting a sense of, like, doing a temperature taking of where are you in this process, and then I tell you like what pieces you're going to need to get set up in order to be in a position to get out there and approach physicians for referrals. So you can find that quiz at drkimfoster.com/quiz. And just take that super quick, just a few questions that you can do that for free.
Nice.
Awesome. I love it. Go take the quiz.
Me too.
Cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Kim Foster. It was a pleasure. We've learned a lot. I know our listeners have learned a lot. So thank you very much for sharing time.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure to talk to you both. I love this topic, obviously, and it's important. So it was just really nice to be able to discuss all the ins and outs of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.
Well, if you've been listening at Health Coach Radio, you'll know that we're all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches, but most importantly, helping to further legitimize this exploding industry. Erin and I have disclosed often that we're on the faculty of the Primal Health Coach Institute, founded by none other than the health and wellness legend, Mark Sisson. And we've interviewed dozens of guests from just about every different health coaching program you can think of, and who practice in just about any conceivable way you can think of. But our allegiance is to the health coaching industry in its totality, first and foremost. It's our desire to continuously and unapologetically lift and promote this industry that nudged us to create this podcast for you in the first place. It's this same yearning that encouraged us to take the educational offering at our health coaching school to the next level. We are so proud to offer the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course, which, when combined with our primary course, the Primal Health Coach certification course, not only satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the board exam, but is specifically designed to teach advanced coaching mastery. You will work closely with a small class of peers through this 12-week, very intensive, live online classroom experience to learn how to execute a coaching relationship that is truly transformational. You'll learn and practice how to ask powerful questions, what it means to hold space for your clients, but most importantly, how to actually do it. You'll learn about the craft of motivational interviewing and the nuances of habit change, goal setting, and accountability, and how to nurture your client's own inner knowing, their intuition, and their own self-efficacy, so that they will graduate from your care a truly transformed person. You want a big, successful, powerful coaching practice. And maybe you're devouring our episodes looking for the silver bullet that's going to launch your business into the upper echelons. We've said it a million times and we'll say it again. Your coaching skills are what will make or break you and set you apart for success in this field. So if you're looking to level up your coaching skills, and maybe dial up your credential and become a board-eligible health coach, look no further. You can learn more about PHCI's Level 2 program at primalhealthcoach.com/level 2. But if you would value talking to a real person about your path to being a masterful coach and perhaps a board certified coach, book some time with me personally. You can access my calendar at primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or just call me. You can reach me at 844-307-7662. Thank you for listening to Health Coach Radio, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.